Hello, welcome to Hong Kong Review 2012. 2012 is no doubt a year of change as we witnessed two major political battles within 6 months, bringing new faces to Hong Kong's political arena. But the change of political landscape had caused antipathy across the territory as people were disgusted by the dirty tricks played in the election campaigns. Indeed, political battles are often called the law of the jungle. Politicians who follow it will prosper, and those who break it will die at the end. This year, we witnessed a drama called The Law of the Jungle, and it was regarded as the dirtiest ever shown in Hong Kong. So how dirty was the drama? Let's look back. The drama began with a debate. Two men from the Pan-Democrats camp were in a quiet battle as they were trying to stand for the chief executive election on behalf of their camp on March 25th. The debate didn't attract very much attention because the public were obsessed by two heavyweights. C.Y. Leung, his alias Wolf, and Henry-TANG, his alias Bora, dubbed as a wolf versus a Bora. Early in the year, polling results revealed that C.Y. Leung had higher ratings than his rival Henry-TANG, but he was struggling to get support from members of the election committee. So he tried very hard to order the situation.
得到700萬香港市民嘅支持，我哋可以影響到選舉委員嘅投票嘅取向。
Often accused of a secret member of China's Communist Party, he took every opportunity to clear his name.
我會捍衛香港嘅法治精神同埋法治傳統。法律面前人人平等，全香港只有一套法律。
Backed up by business tycoons, Henry-Tang's campaign was on a relatively low-key approach. Indeed, there were rumors prior to the nomination that he would win at the end, no matter how bad he performed in the public polling. That raised a question.
你會唔會爭取任免？如果有人主動嚟接觸你想欽點你會點樣睇？如果係有欽點咧，就冇選舉㗎啦。我相信咧，有選舉一定有競爭，有競爭就有進步嘅。
So how's the Pan-Democrats camp doing? Here we are, Albert Ho from the Democratic Party, dubbed as Pigeon. Oh yes, Pigeon Ho. As old, as true as the sky, and the wolf that shall keep it may prosper, but the wolf that shall break it must die. Whoever managed to get 150 nominations out of 1,200 members of the election committee could join the race, and each member could only nominate one candidate. They must obtain 601 votes to win, otherwise a rerun on May the 6th. Like other political battles, there were no shortage of scandals in the campaign. C.Y. Leung was accused of concealing his conflict of interest during the West Kowloon Cultural District Design project in 2001. Henry-TANG was accused of having a 2,000 square foot illegal basement at his bungalow in Kowloon Tong, triggering a PR disaster to the underperformed candidate hopeful. Albert Ho was free from the scandals, but he didn't benefit from there. The PR disaster had forced the Bora to submit nominations in a flag of a switch in an attempt to prevent anyone from leaving his camp. That move had inspired a man and a woman to join the race, saying they need to uphold a clean election in Hong Kong.
我覺得我係一定應該企出嚟，俾香港人多一個選擇。
3 days later, C.Y. Leung retaliated with 305 nominations, 85 less than Henry-TANG.
Through this, I'll try to gain more nomination votes from members of the election committee who have not yet nominated me.
But perhaps the reason to do that was to prevent the man and the woman from joining the race. The scandals dragged on, even the nomination period was concluded, ranging from extramarital affair to banquets. At one point, Henry-TANG threw a political grenade towards C.Y. Leung, as the Bora revealed that C.Y. Leung had recommended the deployment of PLA troops to crack down the anti-Article 23 protests back in 2003. By then, the Bora turned into a wild pig.
我係委派咗律師寫信俾阿梁振英先生， 要求佢撤回佢嘅言論，同埋公開道歉。
誹謗嘅係唐英年先生。
How come a borrower turned wild?
When I have to choose between public interest and confidentiality, I choose public interest, and I am prepared to pay the price and be fully responsible for my words.
But for people of Hong Kong, it's too much already. 2 days before members of the election committee cast their ballots, a civil referendum program organized by the University of Hong Kong had obsessed many people in Hong Kong. Undaunted by the long queue and a mysterious cyber attack, some 222,000 people took part into the de facto universal suffrage. So what's the result? Over 121,000 people, or 54.56% share of votes, chose the option of abstain. In other words, they preferred a rerun. What a blow to all 3 candidates. As the creeper that girdles the tree trunk, the law runs forward and back. The woman who aimed to uphold a clean election couldn't get sufficient nominations to join the race, despite all the efforts. Is it the dirtiest campaign you have ever fought?
In Hong Kong's history, certainly. It's a campaign which is not playing according to people's expectation, But I think it gives a taste of what's to come.
But she voted for C.Y. Leung at the end and subsequently appointed as executive councillor by C.Y. Leung. The Pigeon admitted defeat 3 weeks before polling took place.
We all know that this is a small circle election. People would understand that there shouldn't be any wishful thinking because it is entirely under manipulation and the outcome would be at the mercy of Beijing.
So what for?
But still, we have to seize every opportunity to speak out the expectation and aspirations of the Hong Kong people.
7 a.m. on March 25th, polling day. Hundreds turned up at Harbour Road in Wan Chai 2 hours beforehand, condemning the dirty election campaign and demanding universal suffrage.
就算佢當選咗，唔當選，我哋同小圈子制度係長期嘅鬥爭，唔係因為一個人當選而改變，我哋係要個制度去消失。
小圈子選舉可耻。
Number of votes given to candidate number 1, Mr. LEUNG-Chun-ying, is 689. Candidate number 1, Mr. LEUNG-Chun-ying, has obtained more than 630 votes. I hereby declare, in accordance with Section 28 of the Chief Executive Election Ordinance, that he is elected at the election. 恭喜晒，劉先生。一國兩制已死！一國兩制已死！一國兩制已死！一國兩制已死！一國以各種聯辦治港。
To people of Hong Kong, the drama wasn't just about the dirty tricks. During the campaign, the de facto Chinese embassy in Hong Kong was accused of harassing some election committee members to vote for C.Y. Leung.
香港人其實講得難聽啲係，好似俾人綁咗喺張台度，不停咁去強姦，但係我哋係冇反抗嘅能力。
1 week before the wolf to rule the humans in Hong Kong, a political bomb went off. Media report revealed that there were illegal structures at C.Y. Leung's home on the Victoria Peak. C.Y. Leung used the issue of illegal structure to attack Henry-TANG in the election campaign, citing the issue was a matter of integrity. He also reiterated in the campaign that there was no illegal structure at his home, but it wasn't the case by now. The revelation was so explosive as it triggered 400,000 people to go onto the street hours after C.Y. Leung swore in as chief executive.
Why don't you give him a chance?
Well, he's already, I think, blotted his copybook by lying to the Hong Kong people. Hong Kong deserves better than a liar.
唔誠實嘅人冇機會俾嘅。
用大話嚟到去冚大話，我哋覺得之前已經俾咗太多機會佢，一日都嫌多。喺海
CY Leung tried his best to regain political momentum after taking up the post, as he knew there was no honeymoon for him. Unfortunately, it didn't work out as scandals erupted one after the other, triggering huge public outcry. On July the 8th, media report revealed that the Secretary for Development, MMXII Kwong, and Assistant Director of Highways Department, Zhang Kingman, had deceived the government when claiming housing allowance between 1985 and 1990. They were arrested and charged by the ICAC over conspiracy to defraud. MMXII Kwong resigned 12 days after taking up the post. Both men had appeared in court and pleaded not guilty. The case is now adjourned till April 22nd next year. MMXII Kwong's successor isn't a good guy either. Shortly after succeeding MMXII Kwong on July the 30th, the new Secretary for Development Paul Chan was accused of operating subdivided flats business in Jordan and Tai Kok Tsui since 1994. Executive Councillor Franklin Lam was accused of selling 2 flats here in the mid-levels. However, the special property stamp duty was imposed on October 26. 4 weeks ago, CY Leung admitted that he didn't reveal the whole truth about the illegal structures at his home. So, for the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. But for CY Leung, the question perhaps is how long the pack will last. The weather in Hong Kong this summer was rather stormy. 5 tropical cyclones affected Hong Kong this year, and 3 of them had brought the territory to a halt. One of which had forced the Hong Kong Observatory to issue the number 10 hurricane signal as Typhoon Vincenti hit Hong Kong on July 23rd. It was the first number 10 signal since September 1999. Fortunately, there were no casualties caused by the tropical cyclones. But the cyclone had made a landfall here at Tamar early in the year, bringing humiliation to a political leader. Of course, no political leader wants to be humiliated, but the man who governed Hong Kong for 7 years was end up in humiliation. When the chief executive Sir-Donald-TSANG left office this summer, he received an infamous title called Greedy Tsang, as a scandal erupted 4 months before he left office. So how could he round up his political career with that humiliating title? Five weeks before Sir Donald stepped down as chief executive, he carried on his routine visit to this church before he started his normal business. But perhaps he should show his remorse to Virgin Mary. On February 20th, media report discovered that Sir Donald and his wife Selina had attended a Chinese New Year banquet at a casino in Macau. The report also revealed that there were triad members at the banquet, and the pair returned to Hong Kong by a tycoon's private yacht for free. Within days, he was accused of accepting advantages from a number of tycoons, ranging from luxury flats to hospitality over the past 7 years as chief executive. Apart from that, he was also accused of enjoying ultra-luxury hospitality as taxpayers' expense when carrying out duties abroad. Sir Donald denied all those allegations, saying he had neither accepted advantages from tycoons nor did anything in favor of them. In an attempt to defuse a political bomb, he ordered an independent panel to see how to prevent a public servant from being a big spender when carrying out duty. But it wasn't convincing.
佢做咗公職45年，點可能唔知道應該有啲咩對道德嘅水平？所以我覺得佢整個委員會只不過係想轉移視線。
The panel didn't buy Sir Donald, but accused him of big spender. The ICAC is also investigating on this matter, but no arrests have been made. While Sir Donald's fate remains uncertain, his former political ally was already end up in court. The former Chief Secretary for Administration, Wah Hui, together with the cross brothers of the Sun Hung Kai Group, Raymond Kwok and Thomas Kwok, and 2 other seniors of the Sun Hung Kai Group were arrested by the ICAC on March 29th. Raphael Hui was accused of accepting advantages offered by the Cross brothers when he was serving as Chief Secretary for Administration between 2005 and 2007. He was the highest-ranking official ever arrested by the ICAC. The arrest was a huge blow to the Sun Hung Kai Group as share prices of Sun Hung Kai plunged sharply. The group had appeared in court twice this year, but no pleas were taken. The case is now adjourned till January 25th next year. But the way to fight corruption isn't as clean as we thought. The chief investigator of ICAC, Cho Wing-nin, and senior investigator Chang Kai-hung were sentenced to 13 months of imprisonment, while assistant investigator Ao Kim-fung was sentenced to 18 months of imprisonment on April 30th, as they found guilty of perverting the course of justice. The custodial sentences came when the group was handling a case involving market trader Chen Ching-ho in 2009. Chen accused the group during the trial in 2010 that they had coached him to give evidence in court. The 47-year-old chief investigator Cho Wing-nin was the highest-ranking ICAC officer ever sentenced to jail. Sir-Donald's ambition to transform Hong Kong into a world financial hub has suffered a setback. The Legislative Council's 4-year-long inquiry into the cause of the Lehman Brothers mini-bond saga published the final report on June 6th. The inquiry came following the collapse of the US-based investment bank Lehman Brothers during the global financial tsunami on September 15, 2008. Some 40,000 investors who bought the mini-bonds lost their entire savings. The report strongly condemned the regulatory bodies and a number of senior officials of failing to respond to the irregularities in the financial market, but the report didn't hold any officials to account.
咁而家3年半過咗，立法會嘅調查報告亦都出咗，亦都顯示咗金融、政府都全部都有錯，錯多錯少都係有錯。咁身為我哋成日強調呢個問責政府，其實係咪真係要揾個人出嚟問下責呢？
Nevertheless, the Consumer Council will take legal action against 2 banks on behalf of 2 mini-bond victims. Sir Donald once promised to build a strong government. Didn't he manage to do that? On housing, property prices had risen sharply throughout his 7 years of administration. In April, market figures revealed that property prices in some districts had exceeded the peak in 1997. The sky-high property prices had caused a surge in public housing application. Figures released by the Housing Authority in April revealed that the number of public housing applications had reached 170,000 and had risen further to the record high of 200,000 by the end of the year. To cope with the demand, the government decided to speed up the redevelopment of some aging public housing estates in an attempt to utilize the plot ratio of the site. Sir-Donald's successor, C.Y. Leung, has decided to tackle the housing problem by imposing the special stamp duty on property buyers and implementing Hong Kong land for Hong Kong people policies. But he knows that stable land supply is the panacea to tackle the housing problem, but he knows it wouldn't be easy to do so. On education, Sir-Donald's education reform has taken shape as the first Diploma of Secondary Education examinations took place in March this year, in parallel with the last A-level examination. Undergraduate programs have also been extended from 3 years to 4 years. Sir-Donald regarded education as pillar industry over the past 7 years. Under this framework, he had done a lot in transforming Hong Kong as a destination for overseas students, but he was accused of neglecting local schools, as the government is in a constant row with the education sector over the size of the class. Another pillar industry under Sir-Donald's administration was the medical service. 2 pieces of land were put on tender for private hospital development in April, but the results are yet to be announced. While the results are yet to be announced, these 2 public hospitals will be redeveloped with new buildings and medical facilities. Preparation work for redevelopment has already begun and will be completed by 2022. When Sir-Donald introduced the legal minimum wage last year, it was aimed to combat poverty. but government figures released this summer revealed that the gap between the rich and the poor had widened and is the worst in 40 years. Nevertheless, the legal minimum wage will be revised from $28 per hour to $30 per hour from May the 1st next year after a lengthy negotiation between the unions and the private sector. After the battle with the minimum wage, the unions called on standard working hours legislation, but the firefighters couldn't wait as they issued May Day call on May Day.
我哋希望爭取到20幾年啦，其實正式嚟講係28年前已經係爭取48嘅。按章工作咧，我哋要而家係再細心研究緊，有啲乜嘢可以做到出嚟，而又唔會影響到市民嘅。
Their effort played off as the government has offered a roadmap of reducing working hours per week. That move would inevitably bring more pressure on the private sector over the standard working hours legislation. Sir Donald might not perform well on domestic issues, but his effort to enhance Hong Kong's relationship with Taiwan over the past 7 years had played off. On May 14th, the Financial Secretary Zhong Zhang paid a 4-day visit to Taiwan, where he hosted the grand opening ceremony of Hong Kong Economic Trade and Cultural Office in Taipei. It was the highest level of official body ever established in Taiwan. He left Taiwan with good news for the Taiwanese. Starting from September the 1st, Taiwanese visitors would no longer have to pay when applying the Hong Kong entry permit online. Sir Donald had contributed a lot in enhancing Hong Kong's relationship with Taiwan, but he didn't take the advantage to visit Taiwan in the name of Chief Executive of Hong Kong. What a pity he couldn't enjoy the hospitality in Taiwan. Whether you like him or not, Sir Donald deserves a record. He was the first person managed to finish his term without suffering from any mysterious illness and stepping down early like his predecessor, Tung Ching-hua. He once said he doesn't care about the public ratings, but just wonder how would people comment on him.
香港公眾對佢咧由充滿期望到十分之失望，
不過不失咁啦，佢又唔會話做咗一啲好特別令到市民會有驚喜嘅感覺。
如果你話係佢最失敗嘅地方咧，就係佢係做唔到一個市民期望嘅一個政府領導。
I think the overall performance of Donald has been disappointing. He's been quite arrogant that he didn't want to listen to people that didn't agree with him.
We aim a perfect ending, but of course some lines just don't rhyme. Yet this great poem called Hong Kong will continue to touch readers of many generations to come. Selena and I will now sit back and applaud this masterpiece from a distance. The two of us will forever be thankful to you, Hong Kong.
February 11th, around 3,000 people gathered at the new Legislative Council building in Tamar for the open day. It was the first PR gesture by the lawmaking body since the new building was officially opened in October 2011. But by the time these spectators visited the state-of-the-art building, they had no idea which councillor would manage to come back later in the year. July the 18th, a number of contenders cast their dice for the Legislative Council election on September the 9th. Among the contenders, a woman who used to be a safe player in the functional constituency had decided to make a debut in her political career.
It has always been the core value of the Liberal Party to go for direct elections. As the current chairman of the Liberal Party, I feel it's my duty to lead the party in this direction.
Part of the reason why political parties were so keen on this election was caused by the so-called super seats. Some 3.2 million non-traditional functional constituency voters were able to choose 5 lawmakers from the new District Council 2 functional constituency. Together with the original geographical ballot, voters from various backgrounds will have 2 ballots in hand. It's a legacy left by Sir-Donald-TSANG in his political reform package in 2010. For a candidate without prerequisite, the easiest way to do was this. Turnout was fair, 53.05% for the geographical constituency and 51.95% for the super seats. The pro-Peking camp, DAB, was the biggest winner. They won 13 seats. Henry-Chun returned to the council after the lost battle 4 years ago. The new political party, People Power, won 3 seats, including new recruit Ray Chan. The woman who made her maiden campaign in the geographical constituency lost her seat. Among the defeats, 2 heavyweights from the Civic-Party. The Democratic Party, which supported the political reform package 2 years ago, didn't perform well in the election. Only 6 out of 9 seats retained. They are now living to regret it with a change of leadership. But those committing wrongdoings in the election had to pay the price. 44 people were charged by the ICAC in connection to the vote-rigging scandal in the District Council election in 2011. They were accused of providing false addresses in the electoral register, and some of them had cast their ballots in the District Council election on November the 7th last year. Contrary to the election, corrupt and illegal conduct ordinance, they appeared in court in several proceedings and were sentenced from 12 months of suspended sentence to 12 months of imprisonment. Most of them were related to the illegal conduct took place in the Kings Park constituency of Yaoqing district. But Wang Biu, the defeated candidate at the center of the scandal in Kings Park constituency, who is also the owner of this restaurant in Mong Kok, remains at large. A ferry collision in the western part of Hong Kong waters had marked the deadliest marine disaster in 40 years. Lama 4, a charter ship owned by the Hong Kong Electric, collided with Sea Smooth, a scheduled ferry operated by the Hong Kong and Kowloon Ferry at about 1 kilometer north of Lama Island on October the 1st. Lama 4 was carrying 124 staff and friends of Hong Kong Electric from Lama Island to Victoria Harbour for a fireworks show, while Sea Smooth was en route to Lama Island from Central. Lama 4 sunk shortly after the collision, killing 39 passengers on board. The pain of loss was overwhelming. The British Consulate General in Hong Kong also shared the pain, as one of the victims was a 7-year-old British schoolboy. The government has ordered an inquiry into the cause of the accident, and the final report will be published by summer next year. Disputes caused by infrastructure projects continue to cause tension between the government and those who would be vulnerable. In February, the government presented a revised blueprint of a new motorway project between Lam Tin and Junk Bay in the second phase of public consultation. But those living besides the new motorway are dismayed by the potential environmental impact.
你做咩好多你都要為咗人民嘅生活啦、人嘅健康啊，你咁樣做出嚟害到人，咁樣有咩用咧？又要即係啲咩啲人話叫做咩勞民傷財。 係嘛？你做咗嗰啲勞民傷財，你何必要做咧？你本嚟唔做啦，係咪先？你哋為咗咩？呢啲目的咧就為咗康城入邊嗰啲發展嗰度個位置，你犧牲我哋呢邊嗰啲人，值唔值得咧？
The government will apply project funding from the Legislative Council next year, and the construction work will commence in 2016. 2012 is a remarkable year to the gay community in Hong Kong. It follows a number of high-profile figures who revealed their sexual orientations during public functions this year. One of them was Ray Chan, who revealed his gay days after declaring victory in the legislative election in September. On November the 7th, legislator Sid Ho raised a motion calling on the government to launch a public consultation on a law to protect people with different sexual orientations, but the motion was voted down as expected. Although the government insisted that there is no urgency to protect the sexual minorities, Hong Kong's first homosexual legislator, Ray Chan, had promised that he would keep an eye on this subject throughout his term as legislator. The issue of homosexuality had to be put aside for a while, but companies applying for free TV operating licenses are losing patience. A bitter row was erupted between mid-October and late November over the long delay of free TV license applications. The row came following a electrical hearing over the license applications on October the 17th, as one of the companies expressed its discontent over the long delay. At one point, the row turned sharp between a frail operator and an upcoming rival. The government reiterated that final decisions would be made once the pending procedures are completed, but it didn't indicate further. But for a company which has spent huge sums of cash already, further delay is simply too much. Hong Kong's natural landscape is once again under threat this year. In January, the government unveiled public consultation on how to boost land supply in Hong Kong in order to cater extra 1.5 million people within the next 30 years. One of the options was to reclaim land at 25 locations outside the Victoria Harbour, sparking concerns among conservationists.
And of all the threats to the marine environment, reclamation is potentially the most serious because it is permanent and irreversible loss of habitat.
The fishermen were furious.
成本嘢裏面冇提過移民兩個字。而最不滿嘅地方就係話，政府用好好嘅理由話環保嚟禁本港底拖網，轉頭就話填25幅，要市民去揀。咁樣係咪出賣咗漁民呢？用嗰10幾億打發咗呢班人，咁跟住就你繼續喺為庫房泵錢，而根本亦都唔係益得到真正嘅香港市民㗎啦。頭先好多講者都講咗啦，係咪？呢啲發展係冇意義㗎，我覺得。
The final public consultation report will be out by spring next year. By then, the government will launch the second phase of public consultation. Another reclamation project was under the spotlight this year. In November, reports revealed that an artificial project in Plover Cove, Tai Po, which has been put on hold for over a decade, would restart soon. According to the blueprint, reclamation work would be carried out in order to facilitate the project. The conservationists were fed up by the revelation. They claimed that the project is a man-made disaster as it would put 200 rare and endangered species at risk. The government admitted that the work would commence soon, but a concerned group which strongly opposed the project has threatened to seek judicial review in an attempt to stop the project. The deadline has passed, but no action has been taken. Our revitalization project had forced a private hospital to close down. On June the 18th, the High Court ordered the Hong Kong Central Hospital on Lower Albert Road to surrender the site to the Anglican Church within 3 months. The verdict came following the church's decision to reclaim the site from the hospital in 2009 as part of its revitalization project. The church had given notice to the hospital, but the hospital refused and carried on its business as usual. Subsequently, the church filed its case to the High Court. The Hong Kong Central Hospital, which handled around 60% legal abortion a year, couldn't find a place for relocation. As a result, it closed down on September the 3rd, and it was the first private hospital closed down in Hong Kong's history. A building which was on the brink of demolition was saved at last, as the west wing of the former central government office in Central was upgraded from Grade 2 historical monument to Grade 1. But the battle to save Houghton Garden on the Victoria Peak was failed, as the government couldn't stop the landlord to lock down the century-old monument for redevelopment. The lost battle had forced the government to conduct a comprehensive review on Hong Kong's conservation policy. Indeed, the review doesn't include mobile assets. On May the 9th, the last batch of Kowloon motor bus conventional double-deckers finally decommissioned, signaling the end of the 63-year-old non-air-conditioned double-deck bus service in Hong Kong. But the sense of loss was rather mixed.
聽日開始揸冷氣喎，即係
咪好咯？
咪好啊？點好法啊？
冇咁熱啊嘛！
冇咁熱啦，有冇唔捨得啊？
咁啊冇啊！我哋做梗係望冷氣車啦，翻去沖涼都冇乾淨啲啦，揸完就臭啊成身啊！你都成身汗啦！
Nevertheless, the transport enthusiasts organized their own farewell party as a shooting and bus ride fever erupted at least 6 months beforehand. 3 months after the disappearance of these buses, the government announced to drop the idea of redeveloping the Star Ferry bus terminus in Tsim Sha Tsui into a plaza, saying the idea was technically infeasible. Good news for the transport enthusiasts, as they can carry on shooting as long as they wish. Welcome back to Hong Kong Review 2012. The streets in Hong Kong continue to cater the busy life 15 years after the British administration was concluded in 1997. When the Sino-British Joint Declaration was signed in 1984, it was aimed to ensure Hong Kong's way of life will remain unchanged for 50 years. 15 years after the sovereignty change, the capitalistic way of life remains intact, but the prolonged period of economic growth in China has sparked concern in Hong Kong in recent years over whether Hong Kong will be overwhelmed by China. That anxiety is yet to be justified, but a standoff outside this shop in Tsim Sha Tsui early this year has sparked concern over whether Hong Kong will be able to maintain its way of life. Sunday, January the 8th, some 3,000 people lay siege on the doorstep of Dolce & Gabbana's shop in Tsim Sha Tsui in an attempt to reclaim Hong Kong people's dignity from the Italian fashion chain. The siege was ignited by the chain's black security guard last December as he stopped a Hong Kong resident from taking photos outside the shop, but he allowed visitors from China to do so, causing widespread of antipathy across the territory.
佢哋係對中國人好咯，即係歧視香港人咯。
我覺得比較自豪啊，對於香港嚟講。係。自豪化。我哋敢於抗議我哋唔中意嘅嘢，我哋而家俾人壓迫緊，就係咁。
It wasn't just a PR disaster to Dolce & Gabbana, but also revealed how Hong Kong streets are managed nowadays.
Last year, I was on this street. I got stopped by LV for photographing on the street. The security guard stopped me, and they told me that the Hong Kong government had given the sidewalk to the developers. So I was not allowed to take pictures on the street, and they stopped me. 5 of them stopped me.
It's our right to shoot. You can't stop us shooting from public space, and the road is a public space.
The battle finally played off as Dolce & Gabbana offered its apology 10 days later, just in time for the chain to cash in during the Chinese New Year holiday week. Within weeks, another battle. In February, the government announced that it would let motorists from China to drive in Hong Kong in a trial scheme, which was aimed to encourage integration with China. Despite some motorists from both sides have been able to drive across the border, the move had infuriated many people in Hong Kong over road safety.
In China, you drive on left-hand side, and Hong Kong, you drive on right-hand side. How would you expect a driver that used to drive with the left-hand side? How can they drive in Hong Kong with right-hand side? When government, they say they want to allow mainland Chinese people driving in Hong Kong, have they ever think about all this problem or the difference in between Hong Kong and China?
To defuse the political time bomb, both Hong Kong and Chinese governments agreed to keep motorists from China away from Hong Kong roads indefinitely. Indeed, the relaxation of cross-border motoring has a wider implication, as many fear that it will exacerbate a social problem. Early in the year, there were reports revealed that some private hospitals in Hong Kong were associated with agents in China whom arranged pregnant women from China to give birth in Hong Kong in order to claim permanent Hong Kong residency for their kids. Hence, the hospitals could benefit from the deal. Parents in Hong Kong said it's utterly outrageous.
雙非咧佔嘅百分率咧係多過港人好多，
係咪港人唔中意私院呢？唔係，係佢哋嚟到嘅時候係冇位。既然佢哋得到咁多嘅福利，得到政府資助，點解離棄我哋香港人呢？
To crack down the problem, both the public and private hospitals have agreed not to accept new bookings made by pregnant women from China next year. CY Leung once promised that he wouldn't seek basic law reinterpretation from Peking, but recently the government recommended the Court of Final Appeal to do so. A gesture had brought historical meaning to both Hong Kong and China. On February 15th, the restricted zone in the border town of Sha Tau Kok was reduced. Under the new arrangement, the public would no longer need a permit to enter the released area. Formed in 1951, the restricted zone was aimed to combat illegal immigration and cross-border crime from China. The partial release of the restricted zone was one of the most remarkable legacies left by the chief executive, Sir-Donald-TSANG. But the historical move has a different meaning in terms of time planning. During the first stage of public consultation between June and September over the development of new towns besides the border, the opponents point out that there was hidden agenda in it. They refer to a newspaper article written by the then convener of Executive Council, CY Leung, back in 2008, in which he pledged to move Hong Kong's border southward for greater integration with China. The government denied furiously.
新發展區絕對唔係坊間謠傳嘅深圳嘅後花園，更加唔係雙非富豪城，亦都唔係內地人可以免簽證嚟購物嘅地方。
But his wrongdoings had made him hard to fend off the critics.
你自己嘅劏房事件仲未解釋清楚俾香港市民。
經營劏房嘅唔係我。
The government has refused to drop the blueprint, but only agreed to build more public housing flats in the new towns. 2012 has been a remarkable year for the United Kingdom, as the nation celebrated Her Majesty's Queen Elizabeth-II 60 years on the throne. The nation was overwhelmed by the Union Jack during the Diamond-Jubilee week celebrations in June. No official Diamond-Jubilee celebrations in Hong Kong, of course, but there was no shortage of Union Jack in Hong Kong throughout the Jubilee year. Oh yeah, here we are. 3 months before the territory marked the 15th anniversary of Chinese rule in Hong Kong, the British Hong Kong flags appeared in a demonstration against the Central Liaison Office, China's de facto embassy in Hong Kong.
係咪你好眷戀嗰個年代？
即係一嚟啦，咁二嚟咁你諗，如果即係我哋眷戀前朝呢個諗法，咁啊即係證明我哋而家呢個香港做得有幾差，咁先會眷戀前朝嘅啫，係咪先
？It's not hard to understand the reason behind it. When Sir-Donald pledged the moral and national education curriculum in his policy address in 2010, dubbed as brainwash education, it triggered a series of demonstrations already, like this one in May. But things turned sharp in late June following the publication of a government-sponsored curriculum guideline. Teachers were asked to follow the guideline when the curriculum commenced in September. The guideline had caused outcry across the territory as it glorified the communist regime, which has a long history of brutality in China over the past 63 years. Despite the new education chief had tried his best to defuse a political bomb, it couldn't stop 90,000 people from going onto the street on July 29th as they urged the government to drop the guideline and the curriculum. Even the ethnic minorities found it hard to accept it.
I'm a Pakistani. I live here. I'm just a part of Hong Kong. But you asked me to love China. This is kind of nonsense.
The antipathy soon turned into a 3-month movement and reached its peak in September. Despite the hunger strikes and a 10-day siege outside the government headquarters, the government remained defiant. On October the 8th, the government admitted defeat as it decided to shelve the guideline and allow schools to decide whether to launch the curriculum.
好為我家園，好為我家園，干讀上水站。
During the peak of anti-brainwash education movement in September, there was another battle in the northern town of Shanshui. Residents from Shanshui organized a series of demonstrations outside the Shanshui MTR station in September as they protest against the prolonged period of nuisance caused by the cross-border rail passengers. The residents claimed that the cross-border rail passengers were actually couriers from China, as they ferry undeclared goods to China by rail on a regular basis.
They make our products scarce, more scarce. They take away, like the baby formula. They take, they go in the hospitals, have their babies in our hospitals. It makes it harder for Hong Kong people to use our products for ourselves. They can use their own products. They have their own stuff in mainland China. They can use their own stuff.
The government and the mass transit railway have worked together to crack down the problem, but their efforts have proved fruitless. By the end of the year, the British Hong Kong flags have become a constant icon during public events, but none of the displays were related to the Diamond-Jubilee celebrations. Instead, they appeared during the National Day of the People's Republic of China. So what's the reason? To defy the so-called Chinese colonial rule in Hong Kong.
我哋香港人咧已經係受到中國方面啦，同埋特區政府咧嘅威逼啊，威逼咗15年啊！如果我哋呢一步我哋都唔企出嚟嘅話，我哋香港人咧就絕種㗎啦。
So if they were not celebrating the Diamond Jubilee and chanting God Save the Queen, what message were they trying to send?
香港人有權獨立！香港人有權獨立！ 還我前途自決公投！還我前途自決公投！
It may well be a monumental challenge. Anyway, that concludes Hong Kong Review 2012. We leave you now with some remarkable scenes of the year. From me, from the entire team here, a happy and prosperous New Year. Goodbye.
呢張選票上邊咧有文字，同埋有一個係圖章。俾人可能識別到咧選民身份。呢張選票上邊亦都有文字，係可以讓人有機會識別選民。